It's like a shark, NATO, except with poop.
This is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water. Trust me, I'm like a smart person. I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius. I had the best words. Tolerated. I know words. Mike Pounds. I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation. But there's no better word than stupid. Anonymous, really anonymous. I'm very highly educated. One of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water. Had the best words. God bless the United States.
Around the nation, Waldorf Nation. Hey, everybody, welcome to the show. We got a good one for you today. We are going to talk about, of course, some interesting stuff. We've got Donald Trump continuing to try to take over. It's not a funny thing, but I guess what's funny, the only thing that's funny about this is just the stark level of incompetence that we see from the Trump administration on their attempts to overturn an election, which is normally an incredibly serious thing, but we have the most unserious person that is doing it. And so we're going to talk about that. All right, so we've got that. We've got Michigan Republicans getting called out. An excellent, epic rant that went viral. I want to talk about this because this is my home state. These are people in my home state that are, for one, you got Republicans in my state that were trying to flip it to Donald Trump, and then you got people pushing back. So I absolutely love it. That's going to be a good segment. I'm sure you'll enjoy that rant. We've got Lindsey Graham in a little bit of trouble, possibly. He did some things that were not good. Very tremendously bad. So we'll do that. We'll talk about what he did and why he's lying about it. We also have the GSA staffer. Very, very important. So the GSA staffer, that story has a lot to do with the presidential transition. So you know, that whole peaceful transition of power between the Trump administration and the Biden administration, the incoming Biden administration, being able to have access to all the different things that you need to set up an effective transition. That all falls on this one person. And so we've got a great ad here. I'm going to explain that, why it's important, and then we're going to watch an ad that just absolutely eviscerates this person for not doing their job. That's fun. And then Trump is going to, well, you know what? We've been worrying about the damage, the possible damage of Trump leaving. And so, I mean, what he's going to do when he's getting his ass out the door. Well, now we have some indication of one of the things that he's trying to do. And, well, it's going to be a big FU to the poor and the disabled. Shocker. All right. Oh, hey, Dango, welcome back in the chat. Biden is considering not prosecuting Trump. That pisses me off. I might talk about that later. I might end up going on a fucking rant about it. because it pisses me off. So maybe we'll do that later on or tomorrow, like get an actual segment together. I don't know what's going to happen, but we'll figure it out. We'll do that. And then, of course, if we can get to it, the status of coronavirus stimulus. Interesting. So we'll get to all that stuff today's show. All right. Let's start out with our Michigan story. Absolutely love it. Did I miss the McConnell segment? No, you didn't miss the McConnell segment. No. Nor did you miss gaming last night, by the way. And so, I bet you Trump gets rehabilitated by saying, "Dude, Dango, you're gonna get me into it, dude. You're gonna get me into it, and then I'm gonna yell, and then I'm gonna get very mad at the Democrats because they fucking deserve it for being fucking weak." No, I gotta get to the news. All right. Anyway. Am I playing Demon Souls? Matt, no, I don't have a PS5, my friend. So I do have a friend, though, that is playing Demon Souls. So y'all know. Okay, so let me get back to this. So y'all have seen Tiffany Starr. She has been, she's been on the show. She was on the election special. But I play games with her all the time. She's been streaming Demon Souls for the last few days. So if you want to check that out, she has been streaming that. She's an incredibly entertaining and talented person. Talented streamer here. She's very small. But yeah, check her out. She's, again, doing the remade Demon Souls. She yelled at you for being a little fun. Oh, Dango. All right. Anyway, now let's get to it. There we go. Donald Trump is still refusing to concede the election to Joe Biden, citing massive voter fraud without evidence. As a result, in Michigan, 2 Republican members of the Wayne County Board of Canvassers had originally refused to certify the election results for Wayne County. So now Wayne County happens to be really important because it's literally where Detroit is located. So Detroit is a pretty big city, and it turned out overwhelmingly for Joe Biden. So according to the reports, 4-person Wayne County Board of Canvassers was deadlocked. You have 2 Democrats, you have 2 Republicans. So now the 2 Democrats, they're like, we don't see any voter fraud. We're going to certify the results, right? Well, the 2 Republicans, William Hartman and Monica Palmer, were like, no, we cannot certify. Now, you're not going to be shocked to find out that the Republicans that are on the board that refused to certify were massive Trump supporters. So now they said, well, we can't certify. Well, okay, why? We've got discrepancies. We have discrepancies in the absentee poll books. We can't certify. We think that there's massive voter fraud. Okay. Now, Palmer at one point did suggest that they certify the suburbs, which are majority white. Livonia, for example. Livonia has 95% white population. He's like, oh, yeah, certified Livonia. That's fine. No fraud there. Wait a minute. Why is there no fraud there? But then when you look at Detroit, which is an 85% black or 80% black population, why won't you certify them? Interesting. Very interesting. No, I think it's pretty obvious what happened here, which led to a man named Ned Stabler to rip these 2 Republicans a new ass. And this is part of this Zoom meeting that went viral. Take a look at this.
I just want to let you know that the Trump stink, the stain of racism that you, William Hartman, and Monica Palmer have just covered yourself in is going to follow you throughout history. Your grandchildren are going to think of you like Bull Connor or George Wallace. Monica Palmer and William Hartman will forever be known in southeastern Michigan as two racists who did something so unprecedented that they disenfranchised hundreds of thousands of black voters in the city of Detroit because they were ordered to. Probably, I know, Monica, you think Q told you to do it or some other crazy stuff like that. But just know when you try to sleep tonight, that millions of people around the world now on Twitter know the name Monica Palmer and William Hartman as two people completely racist and without an understanding of what integrity means or a shred of human decency. The law isn't on your side, history won't be on your side, your conscience will not be on your side, and Lord knows, when you go to meet your maker, your soul is going to be very, very warm.
Holy crap. Look, that was awesome. And it just goes to show you that Michiganders do not fuck around, especially when they try to steal an election. I mean, we don't take that well. All right. So, and while this was happening, by the way, Twitter decided to dig into these two board members, and shocker, they found again that they were massive Trump supporters, conspiracy theorists, hated Obama and all that ridiculous stuff. In fact, let me show you some examples of this. So here's William Hartman posting about falsely reporting. This is coronavirus denialism, and you could see that he's retweeting or posting on Facebook an article or a video from OAN. Great, awesome, conspiracy theorist. We've got more. So here's Hartman. I'm not really one to promote conspiracy theories. This may be the funniest one, because in that last one, he was literally posted a conspiracy theory. But you should look up Hammer and Scorecard. I'm reading the news on how great things are that Biden and Harris aren't as declared by the MSM. What will happen if it doesn't happen once the official results are tallied? I wouldn't sell the farm yet. I wouldn't sell the farm yet. Now, again, this is on November 7th, when we've already seen Biden having enough results to certify him the winner of the election. I'm not done. There's more. Voter fraud. It's worth your while to watch this completely unsourced and unverified YouTube video. More. Of course, the obligatory retweet of Donald Trump going after absentee ballots. They're very ripe for fraud. This shouldn't be allowed. And with Hartman saying, be careful, the left is crazy. Says the guy who posts conspiracy theories. More. Russia doesn't worry about being PC and pandering to whiny little liberal babies. I love the irony here, right? Rachel Maddow is like having an orgasm over this. Like, oh my God, Russia! He loves the Russians! It's funny in all sorts of different levels here. And then finally, of course, one more. This is just like, it's just a bunch of his stuff from his pictures from Facebook. And as you can see, some of them are just like ridiculous. All right. Break stuff, steal things. Picture of Obama, of course. Proud to be a cracker. That's fantastic. So yeah. That's this guy. That's Mr. Hartman. So I can't exactly think that he's like a fair actor when it comes to certifying election results. I wonder why he wouldn't want to do that. I mean, now this election has been called the most secure election in history. I don't necessarily know about that, but I do know that there's no evidence of widespread voter fraud, and that in Livonia, again, 95% white, we had more irregularities than Detroit. And yet they had no problem certifying the results from the white suburbs but they had a big problem certifying the results from Detroit. Now, of course, after the backlash, they did change course. They did certify, and that's good. That did prove that pressure and national media attention does tend to work. And it does help to make sure that we can, ironically, stop the steal. Because everything the Republicans do basically is projection at this point. It just makes me think of the Stop the Steal rally, right? We got to stop the steal. We got to stop them from stealing the election, man. We got to stop them. But wait, you're the ones who are stealing the election. It's not the liberals. It's not the Democrats. It's the Republicans, because they're doing stuff like this. And so they're just trying to pull off a win on behalf of Donald Trump. And they're doing the most ridiculous and shady things that they can do. And thankfully, there are great people like this guy, like Stabler, out there who are calling them out. Great work. All right. Let's move on. Lindsey Graham might be in a little bit of trouble. Recently it was revealed that Graham had called the Georgia Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, who's a fellow Republican, and had attempted to get him to throw out ballots. So now, here's what Raffensperger said on CBS on Tuesday, quote, Senator Graham implied for us to audit the envelopes and then throw out ballots for counties that had the highest frequency error of signatures. Again, these are all absentee ballots, which tended to go more for Joe Biden than for Donald Trump. It turns out that if we tell all your fans, don't do the absentee ballots, they're filled with fraud, don't do that, show up on election day. It turns out that when they start counting the absentee and mail-in ballots, that Joe Biden's going to get a lot more of them. But okay, all right. So now, anyway, a lot of this had to do with signature matching on mail-in ballots. So now, the only thing wrong is that these ballots, the signatures didn't 100% match. So now you might think, well, okay, well, look, that makes sense. If they don't match, it means somebody could be doing forgeries out of their basement or something like that. And so, yeah, we should totally look at signature matching, right? No. It's actually kind of a ridiculous system when you look at it. So let me explain why. All right. The whole thing, the whole system really depends on a subjective visual analysis in order to determine whether or not the signatures are close enough. That's not very scientific. It's been proven to not be a very scientific system. And it could lead to, of course, perfectly valid ballots from either party. By the way, either side. It doesn't really matter who votes for who, because you don't know that when you see the signatures. And so that can lead to ballots being tossed, because it turns out that sometimes your signatures just aren't going to match up. There are different ways in which this happens, different factors that lead into that, including health disorders, technology, a whole lot of different things that can really affect whether your signature looks the same. Maybe you're just tired that day and you signed your name in a way that you don't normally sign it. I don't know. Maybe your pen ran out of ink. It doesn't matter, right? It's a ridiculous system. So now, in order to, help prevent ballots from being thrown out, Georgia does have a system that allows you to go and quote unquote carry your ballots, right? So you can come in and you can say, hey, look, that is my signature. I did sign that ballot. It is legitimate. This is my ballot, even though my signature doesn't quite match up. And that's good. And then your ballot gets counted. The thing is, you only get about 2 to 5 days to do that, depending on, the rulings from the courts and things like that. And that's one of the reasons, that's one of the things that Republicans actually tried to limit before and after the election. So now Lindsey Graham says, no, 2 to 5 days is too long. We don't think these are valid whatsoever. Toss them. Get rid of them. Get rid of them all. Oh, okay, interesting. Now, once this allegation, of course, comes out, Lindsey Graham says, oh, that's just ridiculous. Oh, that's just ridiculous. No, I would never do such a thing. Heavens me. Oh, no. No. He said, if he feels threatened by that conversation, he's got a problem. I actually thought it was a good conversation. Oh, okay. In fact, he's going to go on CNN and get interviewed about this. And here's what he said.
What I'm very concerned about is that if you're going to continue to vote by mail, that we need to know what systems work and what don't. It's up to the people of Georgia. But I think I have every right in the world to reach out and say, how does it work? And that's what I did. It's really, I thought, a pretty good conversation. So,
I mean, he thinks it's an implicit threat by what you were saying.
I categorically reject that. That wasn't my intent, and that wasn't the purpose of the conversation, to throw out ballots. We're talking about an election we ain't even had yet, which is the Senate races. That was my focus.
Survey says he's a fucking liar. That is bullshit. But no, I categorically reject that. Okay, but there are witnesses in the room that said that no, that's actually not what you talked about. That's not what you said. And actually, this is spread against around to two different calls. Raffensperger said that at least two members of his staff witnessed Senator Lindsey Graham's apparent effort to suppress the counting of legal votes in Georgia, a state that, by the way, Lindsey Graham does not represent. Raffensperger also told multiple media outlets that Graham had pushed him to throw out those legal ballots. Here's what he told the Wall Street Journal. Quote, Mr. Raffensperger said that when he was contacted by Mr. Graham on Friday, he thought the senator was calling about the state's two Senate races, as Graham had been talking about in that video. After initial conversation, Mr. Graham called back again and then brought up the idea of invalidating absentee ballots from counties with higher rates of signature errors, Mr. Raffensperger said, adding that he had staffers with him on that call, staffers that will corroborate the story. Interesting. So now who do you believe? Brad Raffensperger, who is now getting, because he's like, look, I believe in the numbers. I'm a Republican, but the numbers don't lie. Georgia is going to Biden. And so it's not about politics. It's about the numbers. And then again, the numbers don't lie. We don't have any evidence of massive voter fraud. And so it is what it is. Like it or not, Joe Biden is the next president of the United States. And so as a result of that, this guy's getting death threats from MAGA. You know, got people say, you better not botch the recount. Your life is on the line. Let me tell you what. Oh, okay. Well, great. So now you can believe that guy who is putting his political career and maybe even his life on the line, or Lindsey Graham, who's never met a boot that he didn't want to deep throat. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Okay. This is both sad. Look, Lindsey Graham is both sad, pathetic, and has no business, again, calling these different secretaries of state to inquire about the elections. He just doesn't have any authority, right? So, but that's not all. That's not all. Now, Graham also said, well, it wasn't just Georgia. I actually called people in Nevada and Arizona in order to ask the same question. So really, it's just all about, trying to verify the integrity of elections and just trying to figure out how this stuff works. That's all. That's what we're doing. In fact, according to Politico's Jake Sherman, Graham had told a group of reporters in the Capitol that he had also spoken to the secretaries of state in Nevada and Arizona because he's a senator who was worried about election integrity. I just care about the elections, guys. That's all I was doing. That's all I was doing. And by the way, it was a perfect phone call. It's the greatest phone call, the best phone call ever. Except that those phone calls didn't happen. Shortly after Graham made this claim, Arizona Secretary of State Katie Hobbs denied that she had spoken with Lindsey Graham about the election at all. Oops. Sad. And CNN's Manu Raju also tweeted this. Lindsey Graham told me he doesn't remember the names of the Nevada officials that he allegedly spoke with, but Nevada's Secretary of State says that I have not spoken with Lindsey Graham or any other members of Congress about election results. It never happened. Things that didn't happen for 700, Alex. Him talking to any of these secretaries of state, all he wanted to do was try to overturn the Georgia election result. Again, this is something that isn't even handled by the Secretary of State of Georgia. It's handled by the counties. And so even Raffensperger couldn't even do anything, even if he wanted to. And it was obvious that he didn't. And so, and the cherry on top here, and this is like the best part. It turns out that this could be illegal. Interfering in an election. Oops. Again, he's saying you should throw out the ballots. You should throw out these legal ballots. It'd be a great idea if you just kind of literally threw them out. I mean, it's voter fraud and all that. Felony. Sad. No, of course, you guys know I would be shocked. Shocked. We would all be shocked if Lindsey Graham actually got punished for this. Nobody in power really ever faces any consequences for doing anything. In fact, you got Joe Biden, who was saying that, you know, after he takes power, he's not going to go after Donald Trump for anything. And so, and look, they're all in the club. Okay, they're in the club. And what was it? I believe it was either Dianne Feinstein or no, Nancy Pelosi. I think giving a fist bump to Lindsey Graham just like yesterday. Ridiculous. So that the Democrats are like a big reason why Republicans are so bad, because Republicans get away with everything. The Democrats, it was Kamala Harris. My bad on that. I know Dianne Feinstein gave Lindsey Graham a hug after the whole Amy Coney Barrett thing. But then there's Kamala Harris, who also, gives Lindsey Graham a fist bump. But again, the overall point here, and thank you, this is why we do the show together. My audience is the best. Man, they never go after the Republicans. They never punish the Republicans. Whereas it's funny because every single time a Republican gets into power, constant investigations. I mean, you had like 9 Benghazi investigations. We're going to see about 50, investigations into Hunter Biden's laptop. Oh, you can fucking guarantee it. But Democrats never do anything. They never actually launched legitimate investigations. Even the stuff that they tried to do, they tried to impeach Donald Trump. Yeah, okay, they tried to do this over Ukraine, but they kept things very, very, very narrow in both the impeachment as well as, of course, the other stuff in Ukraine. So, the Mueller investigation. And so it's ridiculous. They never actually really fight. And so, no, I don't see Lindsey Graham getting in trouble for this, but it is pretty indicative about how far Lindsey Graham is willing to go in order to basically attain power and keep power, right? I mean, Lindsey Graham doesn't have any principles. No, Lindsey Graham's only interested in himself and his own power, okay? And at one point, that led him to criticize Donald Trump very lightly. And then, as soon as he got into power, to lick his boots. So, and not just lick his boots, like he's really deep throating that boot. And it's the same thing, by the way, with Ted Cruz. And look, Ted Cruz, Donald Trump insulted his wife, and yet he's out there kissing Donald Trump's ass. It's a very cuck mentality that you have in the Republican Party, and unfortunately, that is most of the Republican Party. It's safe for a very few people. Again, I don't agree with Brad Raffensperger, on anything policy wise, but at least the man believes in reality. And so he's actually one of the ones who are, one of the Republicans who are actually one of the quote unquote good ones. Unfortunately, the rest of the Republican Party is so far buried up Donald Trump's ass that, it'd be impossible to dig him out at this point. All right. Why don't I take a quick break here? I'm going to come back. We've got the GSA staffer. So this is an important story, as well as just an amazing, video. So you're going to love that. We'll come back. Super chats, all that stuff is welcome if you want to help the show. And stay right here, Around the Nation.
I have not loved this conversation.
Tighten up my meat. I like my meat tight.
Why, you're getting nervous, man.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show. Around the Nation right here, Waldorf Nation. Jeff Waldorf here with you today. So, I first want to give a shout out to our patrons. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. I want to thank Kimberly Bridges and Steve Pledge. So appreciate it. You're amazing. You help keep independent progressive media both independent and stable. So thank you so much. Hello to you on Twitch. Love you guys as well. Over in the Twitch fam here, YouTube as well. In fact, I want to thank some YouTube channel members. Misanthropic Humanist is our newest channel member, followed by Crystal McDonald. Thank you to both of you for supporting the show. Much, much appreciation to you. All right, so with that, let's dive in. And we've got one more really amazing story. Well, we got a lot of amazing stories, but one more video here. Let's see. I know, what was I doing all break? All right. Here we go. Don't mind me, it's playing with my buttons. Emily Murphy is not a name that most people would likely know, but she has a really important job that she is refusing to do. So now she is the head of the General Services Administration. And one of the duties that she has in that job is signing off on the general election, a process that is called ascertainment. So once she signs off on that, that means that Joe Biden would be able to, as president-elect, start, assembling his cabinet, putting everything together, having meetings, getting briefings on COVID, for example, as well as on national security. And so it really opens a lot of avenues for the administration to get set up to take over on January 20th. So now she has not signed that paperwork. She has not ascertained the results of the election. Well, that's interesting because Joe Biden has clearly won the election. He has 306 electoral votes, and he has 5 million more votes in the popular vote. And so, I mean, it's pretty clear who the winner is. Okay. And look, yes, I realize that there's a recount going on in Georgia, but of course, experts are saying that there's not going to be enough to overturn the results in Georgia. Joe Biden just has too big of a lead. And then you also have other challenges in court that keep getting tossed out. So these are dumb challenges, okay? For example, there was one with some hearsay on a Post-it note, okay? Another court challenge involved them being a non-zero number of people in the room that were supposed to oversee the election. Now, Republicans said there was nobody in the room, there was nobody in the room, but even the lawyers had to admit, since they were under oath, that there actually was people in the room. And so these are the ridiculous things, okay, that the Republicans are doing, all right, to try to overturn the results of the election, and they are not working. So, and it's very obvious that there's not going to be enough to overturn the results of this election. So what is she waiting for? What is the holdup? Why is she not signing the paperwork that she's supposed to sign? Again, we've had a lot of different places now begin to certify the election results. What is she waiting for? Well, now sources say that Murphy is working to interpret vague agency guidelines and follow what she sees as precedent to wait to sign off on the election result, which has led to condemnation, of course, and pressure from both sides. Of course, Donald Trump says, don't sign the papers, don't sign the papers. And the other side, the Trump and the MAGA people say, don't sign the papers. And she's gotten death threats from MAGA people, okay? And yet, the other side says, sign the paper. You got to sign the paper. Biden won. And so, speaking of pressure, by the way, Midas Touch put out an ad about this, and it's kind of awesome. Let's take a look.
Meet Emily Murphy, a political hack, a traitor, appointed by Donald Trump to lead the General Services Administration, the GSA. What has Emily done? Rooftop sex parties, Emily was A-OK with alcohol ragers and rooftop sex parties at taxpayer expense at her government office. Swamp monster. Emily Murphy worked with Trump to prevent the FBI from moving its D.C. office space to help the Trump Hotel across the street. She tried covering it up to Congress.
Was the president or anyone at the White House involved in those discussions?
Sir, to my knowledge, the direction that we got came from the FBI.
We now know, in fact, that the president ordered this decision, which has the effect of benefiting his hotel and his own financial bottom line.
Sedition. And now Emily Murphy created chaos by unlawfully refusing to sign paperwork to permit a smooth transition to President-elect Biden, placing our lives at risk.
What do you see as the biggest threat to your transition right now, given President Trump's unprecedented attempt to obstruct and delay a smooth transfer of power?
More people may die.
Emily Murphy is a national disgrace. Tell Emily Murphy to sign the transition papers now. Midas Touch is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Rooftop sex parties. Wait. That kind of sounds fun. Maybe she's not so bad. No, I'm kidding, of course. Okay. But look, I didn't know about that, actually, so I went back and I looked at some of the articles, and yep, that kind of happened. I mean, she wasn't involved in any of them, obviously, but she did allow some drinking to happen, and then, of course, drinking at the office on, like, Fridays and all that. Well, I mean, yeah, at one point, it did turn into a rooftop sex encounter, so, in the office. One of the staffers, apparently, was known to keep a bottle of vodka at his desk. So, fun times, right? But, all right, that said, I think that's less important. It is interesting, but it's less important than talking about her job, which she's supposed to be doing, right? And that is allowing for the peaceful transition of power by being able to, sign the paperwork that she needs to sign. So now, the other interesting thing is, according to sources talking to CNN, they say that Murphy is having a bit of a breakdown as a result of the pressure. Quote, she absolutely feels like she's in a hard place. I mean, sex party. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding about the sex parties. Okay. She's afraid on multiple levels. It's a terrible situation. One friend and former colleague of Murphy's told CNN, Emily's a consummate professional, a deeply moral person, but also a very scrupulous attorney who is in a very difficult position with an unclear law and precedents that is behind her stance. What precedents? She, like Joe Biden won the election legitimately. Like there's, again, if there was evidence of voter fraud, they would have presented it in court. Rudy Giuliani went to court yesterday and there was a lot of bluster, but no evidence to back him up, to back up his grandiose claims. And so that's unfortunately for the Republicans, what we've seen over and over and over again, right? That there's no proof of widespread voter fraud. It just doesn't happen. It's not happening. Okay. It's not a thing. So that's it, right? She should be signing the paperwork. What is she waiting for? What is she waiting for? But no. Her friend continues. She's doing what she believes is her honest duty as someone who has sworn true allegiance to the Constitution of the United States of America and the laws that govern her position. No. Again, her duty is to the Constitution, okay, not to Donald Trump, which I think this is more of who she's actually serving, okay? And her loyalty has gone to Donald Trump because Trump gave her that position in the first place. And so the longer this goes on, and this is the problem, right? The longer this goes on, the worse it gets for the country. Again, the worse COVID gets because Donald Trump's given up on it. He doesn't care about COVID. He doesn't care if, that more and more people are dying each day, that we're having a 9/11 every day. I mean, or near. The more damage it does to the trust in our electoral system. Again, none of the voter fraud lawsuits have come up with anything. There's no merit in them. There's no massive voter fraud. There's no evidence that will overturn the election. There's literally no reason. No reason. Biden won. Just do your damn job. Just do the job. So I don't give a damn about your breakdown. What, you think the American people aren't having a breakdown right now? 250,000 people are dead from coronavirus. Come on. As the country's spiraling out of control. We have an economic crisis and no stimulus to help. We have a wannabe fascist that is attempting to steal the election, and you're literally helping him by not doing your fucking job. And it gets better, by the way. According to ABC News, she has been, while she is not signing the paperwork in order to initiate a transition, she's actually been out shopping on a new job. According to reports from ABC News, Murphy recently sent a message to an associate inquiring about employment opportunities come 2021. A move that some in Washington interpreted as at least tacitly acknowledging that the current administration will soon be gone. Well, yeah. So she's going to go and she's going to set up her own career, but continues to refuse to certify the election, to ascertain the results of the election. That's amazing. Look, there's no amount of Republican copium that can fix this, okay? Trump lost. That's it. Do your fucking job and sign the paperwork already. Jesus. All right. Who's going to hire her? Probably nobody. Well, thank you for the super chat, Joanne. Much appreciated. All right. Moving on here. Let's get to the next story. Yeah. Perhaps feeling just a little bit better, or just taking one last shot at the losers and the haters, the Trump administration is finalizing regulations that could make it harder for people who apply for disability benefits and appeal denials. So now, starting next month, the Social Security Administration will be able to use its own lawyers to hear appeals instead of more independent administrative law judges. So now that's important because administrative law judges, again, are more independent, and it's basically makes it so that it's easier for people to be able to appeal. See, Social Security, anybody who's had experience with Social Security, or applying for disability or having a family member that has done so, knows that this is not an easy process. This is not a simple process. This is a long process with numerous denials for legitimate claims. It is not uncommon for people with legitimate physical or psychological disabilities to be denied multiple times. And this is under the current system, right? If you have lawyers or judges that are inside the agency that don't have this independence, again, they're going to take more of the side of the agency to deny these claims. So now, I know someone, for example, I know this is an anecdote, it doesn't really matter, but, when it comes to the grand scheme of things, when it comes to evidence, but I want to share this anecdote anyway. So I know somebody, I have a friend whose dad has cancer, and thankfully now it's in remission, but earlier, when it had just been diagnosed, this person decided to apply for disability. Okay, because they weren't able to work through that. Okay, I think it was full-blown lung cancer. All right, so he couldn't work, and he applied for disability and was denied several times. So again, this is a really long process filled with denials. You have to continue to keep proving your case and to continue going through this process for months and months and months, sometimes even years, in order to get your claim. So now there's this myth perpetuated by the right where you could just be like, you go into a disability officer or social security office and be like, oh, my back kind of hurts. And they just give you like a check on the spot. No, that's not what happens. Okay. It's not just, oh, my pinky toe, I can't work. Give me disability. That's not what happens. That's not a real thing. It's bullshit, right-wing framing. And the other framing, of course, is to call it quote unquote welfare, which it's not. And so if you do this change, if this regulation goes through, it's going to make it tougher for people to apply that are legitimately disabled. Okay. And so Democrats, led by Representative Richard Neal. Now, I got problems with Richard Neal, but hey, good on him for this. He is against this rule. He said that it puts unqualified agency staff in control of deciding appeals hearings, and that the Biden administration, once it gets into power, should reverse that policy. So now, if it gets passed, and if the rule gets finalized, that is going to take time, and I'll explain that a little bit later. People who are disabled don't have that time. They can't really work, and bills don't exactly stop. Okay, and even if they're able to work, at least part-time, we are in the middle of a pandemic, and if you have a condition that is bad enough to be able to get on disability, well, then you shouldn't be out there to begin with. Okay, and again, there are people that are on disability that are able to work part-time as well, with reasonable accommodation. That said, not even considering that, the loss of income that they're suffering and the lack of government support right now also makes time of the essence. And that money, again, is desperately needed in order to pay things like medical bills related to that disability, rents or mortgages, to be able to buy groceries or buy medicines, things like that. And so, yes, there's an issue here. They cannot wait for this. And this isn't the only change, by the way, the administration actually wants to make before they get themselves out the door. Dozens of other agency rules are now pending at the White House Office of Management and Budget, and the administration could finalize them before Biden takes office in January. And again, that makes it difficult. When you finalize that rule, it makes it much harder to get rid of. Now, several of the rules target food and disability benefits, while others are aimed, of course, at environmental and worker protections, because, of course. I mean, there it is. In fact, here's Jerry Nadler and Carolyn Maloney saying in a letter earlier this week to OMB Director Russell Vought, quote, "We have strong concerns that there may be last-minute rollbacks of health, safety, and environmental protections by the outgoing Trump administration. We are concerned that these midnight rules may be rushed through without providing Congress adequate time to review these rules as required by law." So now, two of the pending final rules would tighten eligibility standards for the SNAP program, for getting SNAP benefits, also known as food stamps. There's work requirements and all that. And last week, the Social Security Administration sent OMB another change that would ramp up something called continuing disability reviews, which are examinations of whether people receiving disability benefits are still technically disabled. Generally, once you are considered to be disabled enough to be able to get benefits, you generally don't get better. Your arm, like if you lose an arm, your arm doesn't regrow. I guess there are some situations, like, for example, psychological issues, where you can get on medications and start to do better to where you can start getting back to work. But generally, again, once you're disabled, you don't necessarily stop being disabled suddenly. And so that's a problem. And so now there's good news and there's bad news about this, okay? Since we do have Joe Biden that will be winning, or that has already won the election, sorry. He's already won. He'll be taking power here on January 20th. He'll be able to reverse these rules. And it's high likelihood that he will. All right. But here's a good one, right? If the rule is pending when the new president takes office, then the administration can say, we're just going to halt it. Halted. Not going to happen. But if the Republicans are able to ram this through undoing it requires going through the rulemaking process all over again, which takes time, or getting Congress to nullify it, in which, of course, if you have Republicans that continue to control the Senate, say the Democrats do not win in Georgia in those Georgia runoff elections, then Mitch McConnell keeps the Senate, the Republicans keep the Senate, and they don't pass anything. They don't nullify anything. And so, again, it takes time. So now they would have to force, the Democrats would, the chamber to vote on a resolution of disapproval with the hope that they would get 2 Republicans to support that, which basically means, in my estimation, very unlikely that it would happen. Maybe you might get like a Suzanne Collins or a Lisa Murkowski. I don't necessarily know, but the odds are good that there would not be a nullification of some of these rules. And so, not good. Now, to be fair, again, I rag on the Democrats all the time, but in this case, right now, they seem to be putting up a fight. House Democrats on Monday had asked the GAO to carefully monitor any agency activity during this transition period to make sure new regulations complied with the law, and also added riders to an appropriations bill that would disallow the Social Security Administration from implementing its proposals to increase disability reviews or to sidestep administrative law justices. Now, that's important, that putting the riders on, because the bill, this appropriations bill, to fund the government is coming to a head on December 11th. So that could determine whether or not the government will shut down during a pandemic. And I don't have to tell you how disastrous that would be. Now, that said, that might actually give Republicans much more leverage, because Republicans don't care if the government shuts down. They don't care if people don't, die during it. Again, you've seen the Republicans in action during coronavirus. Mitch McConnell continues to block any sort of coronavirus deal with the Democrats. All they're doing is pushing $500 billion skinny bills, which address maybe one thing at a time, and most of it's corporate giveaways, essentially. And so we've seen that. And so I am kind of worried that Republicans just be like, give us Social Security cuts, or we're going to shut down the government. Now, the one thing that is in the benefits of the Democrats is that, well, that's going to disrupt the markets. And that's the one thing both parties care about more than anything, is making sure the markets are stable. And so a government shutdown would kind of destroy that as well. And so it could go either way. I really hope the Democrats will continue to at least oppose these cuts and to try to stay strong on this and to not give the Republicans an inch. But that said, if these do end up getting, passed, rammed through, well, that's just going to end up leaving a legacy of hurting regular people. And that's completely on brand for the Trump White House, who's just trying to burn the house down. If they can't have it, nobody can. Republicans. All right. One more here. I'm finally getting to this story, and I've been putting it off. Despite the promises of a new coronavirus vaccine, which has actually seen a lot. Actually, we have 2 different coronavirus vaccines that are showing a lot of promise. Americans, we still need economic assistance, as that vaccine will not be available for widespread use for still quite some time. And the longer, of course, the administration holds up, the Trump administration holds up the Biden administration from being able to take power and have coronavirus briefings and being able to set up logistics, well, the longer we're going to have to wait for a coronavirus vaccine. That said, there's a lot of people that are still economically hurting as a result of the pandemic. And the one obstacle to be able to solve that is, of course, Mitch McConnell, who is refusing to advance a comprehensive coronavirus relief package. So now Mitch McConnell, look, he's fresh off his win from Amy McGrath, right? So he's safe. He's not going to be replaced. And so he's not really worried about helping regular people. What he's worried about is obstruction. And that's it. Obstruction. And he is pushing more Trump judges. In fact, Newsweek noted the president could still appoint a dozen or more judges during his final months in office, actions that would further the steady stream of judicial confirmations that has flowed through the Senate floor under Donald Trump's presidency. Confirmations the Democrats, by the way, have not opposed in any way. So the Democrats, what they've been doing is just pass them along, while Republicans are ignoring COVID relief. So my question is, why don't the Democrats fight in this issue? Why? They're on the right side. Coronavirus relief. I mean, Mitch McConnell has already said, I'm not going to pass anything. I'm not going to pass anything. In fact, again, my priority, and this is Mitch McConnell saying, my priority is confirming more Trump justices before Donald Trump leaves. Back in October, here's what he said, quote, we're going to run through the tape. We go through the end of the year, and so does the president. We're going to clean the plate, clean all the district judges off as well. By the way, these district judges are the ones right now that have stopped Donald Trump from winning a lot of these voter fraud cases. Okay, so what they're doing is they literally saved Biden's campaign. And yet the Democrats are saying, oh, go ahead, Trump, fill these. Just fill these seats. Go ahead. It's fine. Nothing bad's going to happen. These are, again, a lot of these are Trump loyalists. And that's the problem. In fact, you had 6 more Trump judicial nominees that headed for confirmation this week, according to advocacy group People for the American Way. And they are urging Democrats to actually stand up. In fact, here's a part of a letter the group wrote. Quote, instead of supporting the nominees, the Republican majority is attempting to ram through this late date. Democratic senators should use this opportunity to talk about the vital role courts play in protecting the rights and the health of the American people. In this way, they can demonstrate a clean break for the Republican agenda, which has been named judges who will put the interests of the powerful ahead of the rights of the rest of us, including corporate power, police violence, access to health care, racial justice, voting rights, and LGBTQ plus equality. According to President Ben Jealous, Democratic inaction must not be an option. Quote, it is literally sickening to see Mitch McConnell continue to indulge his partisan obsession with confirming far-right judges, instead of taking action on the COVID pandemic that continues to spin out of control. It's time for Democrats to speak out forcefully, clearly, and insistently against the judicial nominees of this lame duck president. Not only is the timing egregious, but this group of nominees expected to proceed next week, i.e. this week, includes some of the worst qualified and inexperienced we have seen to date. Democrats need to step up and say so by voting against these nominees and making the full force of their objections absolutely clear. Now, are they going to do that? Nope. I mean, that's my guess. And maybe I'm wrong. Please, Democrats, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong, please. And stand up against them. But I just don't think it's going to happen. Why? Democrats in the Senate just reelected Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer is their leadership now. Do you think Chuck Schumer is going to block nominees, Donald Trump's nominees, the way that McConnell blocked Obama's? No. Why? It's because, well, I mean, he hasn't. Donald Trump has gotten a ton of his nominees through. Look, I mean, Donald Trump's already seen about 53 of his picks for circuit judges and 164 district judges confirmed. So, no, they didn't block any at all. Whereas, again, Republicans blocked everything. And that tally is in addition, of course, to the confirmations of Judge Kavanaugh, Neil Gorsuch and Amy Coney Barrett. And so they didn't put up a fight. When will the Democrats ever fight? Again, Mitch McConnell, he doesn't want to work with you. And guess what? I don't want to work with Mitch McConnell. I want to beat Mitch McConnell. I want to defeat him. He wants to spit in our eye. Well, you know what? We shouldn't work with somebody like that. Okay? When somebody punches you in the face, not in a, well, maybe even in a literal context, you're not supposed to say, oh, yes, sir, please. Thank you, sir. Here's everything that you want. No. You fight back. I mean, why would anybody want to vote for you, these loser Democrats, if they're not actually going to fight against Republicans on policy issues, on things that are important, on judicial appointments? Why would you vote for somebody who gives the Republicans everything that they want without anything in return? Why? Why would you do that? It's because you're weak. It's because you're feckless. It's because you're controlled opposition. You're not an opposition party. You're the assistants. I'm so tired of the Democrats. Joe Biden wants to, not go after Donald Trump when, he takes power, right? For anything that Donald Trump did wrong. Not going to prosecute. We're not going to prosecute at all. What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? Republicans will, get a million investigations into a Biden administration. You watch. We're going to be talking about Hunter's laptop. We're going to be talking about Ukraine. We're going to be talking about who knows what kind of insane things that the Republicans are going to come up with in order to investigate Joe Biden. And Joe Biden says, oh, no, it's fine. Donald Trump's fine. And in a decade, they're going to, I have this feeling that they're going to rehabilitate Donald Trump. It turns out he's not that bad. Tom Cotton, though. President Tom Cotton, President Ted Cruz. Ooh, that guy's a bad guy. But Donald Trump, he was just misunderstood. No. Stop being weak. Stop being sad. And that's what the Democrats are. They don't ever fight. Again, it's incredibly frustrating to sit here and know that young activists have put everything into electing Joe Biden and Democrats, okay? And it would be really fucking nice if we actually had a party that would stand up for us, okay? That would actually do the things that would help us. And instead, they're allowing Republicans to get away with basically everything. No, you fight. And you know what? If you're not going to fight, we're going to elect politicians who will. And that's, of course, AOC, Cori Bush, Jamal Bowman, the squad. You think the squad's a problem now? Just wait. Just wait until the squad's twice as large. You're going to need us progressives sooner than you think. So fight for us. And we'll actually fight for you. Okay. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you for going around the nation. Please like and share the stream if you enjoyed the show. Very helpful that you do so. Again, helps us out. Become a patron, become a channel member, all that good stuff. Subscribe. Not just on YouTube, but become a subscriber on Twitch as well. In fact, okay, I don't think there's anything that happened here over on Twitch, but yeah, follow us there as well. So, all right, thank you all. Love you guys, and remember, change begins with you. Good night, everybody. We'll see you all later on. Have a great night, and stay tuned for the show tomorrow.
Give me a break.
Wet ass P-word.
GSA nights.
Thailand.
Please clap.
Wait. You're getting nervous, man.
Tolerate. Mike Pounds.
You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.